Hey everybody, welcome to your horoscopes for the week. These are the horoscopes for the week ending July 25th, 2015. Lots of things going on, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it, and we're going to start, as we usually do, with Aries. Thankfully, the Sun and Mercury move out of that T-squared position that Mars, Uranus, and Pluto have. Unfortunately, though, for the rest of this week, Mars is going to stay in that aspect, and it is going to be some very frustrating energy with Mars in that particular part of the aspect. This is one of those instances that's going to make you feel like you literally just fighting an uphill battle trying to get what you want when it comes to your career and, in some cases, your personal goals. And you may even feel like some of those people that signed up to be team players aren't necessarily being team players, which can be very, very frustrating also. But Pluto's placement in this aspect is all about changing your thought process, and this thinking thing is really big and really important in many of the signs this week, and it's definitely going to be at its peak on Wednesday when the moon moves into position to make this T-squared aspect a cardinal grand cross for one day. And with the moon's placement in it, it's very emotional. It's mirroring and mimicking these old emotional traps that you've been in before. And it sort of creates a fight or flight mentality. You either have to fight through it or just plain old run away from it and not deal with it anymore. Those are past patterns. You don't need to go that route, of course, because in the past it hasn't necessarily worked for you. It may seem like it worked for you a little bit, but really in the long run it hasn't worked for you. So you're not going to do that this time. You're going to make a different decision, not to fight through it, not to run away from it, and not to overthink the situation either. The more you're thinking about that situation in a negative way, the more fuel you're giving to an already difficult and fairly large fire. You don't want to blow everything up, although that is fun. I agree that is fun, blow things up every now and then, but you don't want the situation to blow up in your face. It's too important. So this week, change your thought process. Stop dwelling on it. Stop thinking about how angry you are with the situation or the person, and omit those thoughts to change them into something that is more positive, where you can put that kind of energy into the situation and be proactive. Get it done, fix it, move on from it, and get on with your awesome life. So you guys, it is a little bit of a difficulty for you this week. Uranus is still trine with Jupiter, so you got all the support you need to get through this. And you guys are absolutely fantastic and built for this stuff. So you guys have a great week with that. Taurus, money. It always seems like it comes down to money, doesn't it? And the focus is still on money, and in some cases the lack thereof this week. When you find yourself focused on money so much that it becomes the most important thing in your life, it can be a real drag and a real downer and a real difficulty towards expanding that money in the bank that would bring you a little bit more security and give you a little bit more wiggle room and playroom to be able to do the things that you want to do and not necessarily just the things you need to do. This week it's all about changing your perception on money, and specifically the things that you do around you. Now, rather than focusing on the money and what you don't have because you don't have the money, focus on what you do have and the beautiful things that you do have. Your family, your loved ones, the home that you're in, the things that are already inside of the home, your hobbies, your gifts and your talents. These things are all completely yours, and it didn't cost you a dime, okay, maybe some of the stuff did, in order to have those things. And it's not costing you anything right now. Okay, maybe paying the rent. But that's not the point. The point is, what is the value in what you have? Do you love that house? Are you happy to have it? There's value in it. So whether or not it costs money or not is irrelevant. You need that house. When it comes to your hobbies and your gifts and the things that you're able to do, it may take some money to do these things, but let's not look at the money right now. Let's look at how it makes you feel. Does it make you happy Does it bring some kind of joy into your life or even some kind of purpose into your life? Then it's worth it. And rather than worrying about whether you have the money or not, you want to focus your energy and time into manifesting that money. You can take some of those hobbies or gifts or things that you're good at and make a little bit of extra money. Generate some extra money for yourself. Anything is possible, and there are a million ways to make money, not just the 9-to-5 job that everybody's usually focused on. And that is actually a pretty crummy way to make money, because you're never going to get ahead on that one unless you're making boo-boo bucks. You have to work up to that. But when it comes down to it, the more you focus on the blessings that you're getting out of whatever you may have to spend money on, the more likely you are to actually put that money into it and stop worrying about whether or not it's needed. Of course it's needed, and even if it's not needed and it's wanted or desired, do it anyways, because you put a lot of hard work into your life. You deserve to enjoy it too. So you guys, look at it in a different way with a little bit of positive reinforcement. Can take you as far as you want to. And don't let that money take over and rule your life. Put that money back in its place and enjoy. And have a great week with that. Geminis, this week makes you busy bees when it comes to handling your business and your goals and dreams this week. Lots of action is taking place and a lot of things are happening. And it may need the majority of your focus and your time this week. When it is that important and you're down to the intricate details, you definitely want to be really strict about managing your time. Especially when your life is so full of so many things that can kind of sort of come in and take over at any time. Whether it's other situations or people in your life, etc. This week you really want to be strict about it. These people are going to understand if you can't drop everything right now and do everything for them when you really need to focus on this for you and spend that time. And when you're resting from that focus, it's rest time, not go do something else for a while. This avoids confusion and delays of your goals, of the attainment of your goals in the end. And these people and situations will still be there when you are done putting all of this wonderful and awesome energy into this, whatever it is that you brilliant Geminis are putting together. Lots of energy to do this is what's needed. You got to take time for you, you got to rest for you, and you got to keep your focus exactly where it needs to be on getting your stuff done. There's nobody that can handle that better than you guys. So good luck with that, and have a great week with that. Cancer, happy birthday to all the Cancers born this week. The last of our Cancers, as the Sun and Mercury will be moving on out of your sign by Thursday this week. But Mars is still there and still in T-squared position with Pluto and Uranus. And on Wednesday, unfortunately, as the moon moves into a not so pleasant placement, creating a cardinal grand cross for one day, some really old crap is going to take that frustration and possibly really fuel it into a big pot of frustration. Especially when it comes to feeling like you can't make changes. There's always these wrenches that are being thrown in your path, making it so that it's clear that you cannot move forward, and it's extremely frustrating. This seems like the same old story, especially on an emotional level, and oftentimes it looks like there's other people or situations or life in general that are coming in and throwing these wrenches in your path. And a lot of times, I hear a lot of people go to the, why does this always happen to me? I can't catch a break. Really hate that phrase. I can't catch a break. What are you doing? Are you just watching somebody throw them and you're trying to catch them? No, you make your own break, and that's how that works. If you are focused, especially too much time thinking, and Pluto's placement is in the position where it's too much thinking about the situation is going to kill the situation. You're going to be buried more and more in all of this inability to catch a break. Changing your way of thinking about it, or omitting the fact that you're overthinking it altogether, really put some good energy into the situation so you can see some positivity. And you can't just do this when you're in a good mood. You have to train yourself to do this when your mind is already in the negative flip-flop motion. This is all old stuff. This is all stuff that's happened before, and it's coming up right now to tell you that it's time to change the way the game is played. Turn it around, and instead of walking away from it, throwing your hands up and saying, told you it wasn't going to work, do it anyways. Not fight through it, face your fear, accept your war. It is what it is. Get to that root, let it go, and move on with your life, because you are the only obstacle standing in the way between you and everything you want. So don't be caught standing in the way. Get out of the way, do what you got to do, and prepare to be as awesome as you possibly can. You guys have a great week with that. Leo. Happy birthday, Leo! It's true, the sun is moving into Leo later on this week, and it is the time for Leos to shine. This is really the best time of the year for Leos, and they really, really get excited about it. And it's definitely going to be a pretty darn good week for you guys, for the sun coming into Leo. A little bit of challenge, but a lot of good things happening too. We're going to start with that challenge. Venus is officially in Virgo, but it's right on the cusp of Virgo and Leo. And she's literally sitting there all week this week until she goes retrograde at the end of the week. So she's not going to go too far into Virgo before she comes back into Leo. And it is going to be a little bit of a challenge, especially when it comes to feeling like you're not getting the love reciprocated back. And this is an old pattern, as if old responsibilities that were heaped on you that don't even belong to you are still ruling the current situation that's going on right now. You are giving all of this time and pieces of yourself and just not seeing that reciprocation back. However, Jupiter's trine with Uranus and the Sun and Mercury's trine with Saturn counterbalance this energy in beautiful ways, showing you just how much you can shine and how well you can communicate when it comes to your career and making advancements in your career. And as far as that trine with Jupiter and Uranus, well, it shows you just how much support you really do have. It just may not be being reciprocated quite in the way that you're putting it out there. It doesn't make it less supportive, it just makes it different. And in some cases with some people, you kind of have to read between the lines in order to really see what it is that they're saying, because their own discomforts may make it a little bit difficult for them to communicate. So be open to all the different ways that you do receive that love and support, because it is there, even if what you truly, truly want is lacking. And if it is lacking, well, then it's time to figure out how to get it, because you Leos just don't settle for anything. You hold out for exactly what you want. So get exactly what you want, guys, because you deserve it. It's your time. It's the time for Leo, and you guys have a great week with that. Virgo, the moon kicks off the week in your sign, and Venus is officially in your sign this week, sitting there pretty, not really going anywhere, kind of sort of just stuck there until she goes retrograde at the end of the week. So she's literally just dipping her toe in your sign before she goes retrograde and goes back into Leo next week. So she'll be back later on in a couple of months or so. But in the meantime, she and the moon at the beginning of the week are both in opposition with Neptune, which is going to cause some difficulties for you, especially if you're not feeling the love you put out there reciprocated back to you. And that is definitely painful. But at the same time, you want to mind your thoughts on this situation. You don't want to blow something out of proportion that could be nothing because you're so focused on it in a negative way in your mind. When you allow yourself to feel into the situation too much, you become offended, you can't get away from it, you're constantly thinking about it, you can't let it go. And then it worries you and it frustrates you and it literally overtakes you. Now, this may be nothing more than the person was unavailable that day, and that's it. And you've blown this up into a this person's never there for me. However, on the flip side, if this is an ongoing pattern, stop overthinking it and do something about it. You don't have to be in this relationship or deal with this person if they're going to continually let you down like that after what you put into it. You have a beautiful heart. You should be able to open up that heart to everybody, but if they're going to take advantage of it, someone else is waiting behind you or behind that person and to appreciate that if this person is not appreciating it. So this week it really is all about minding your feelings and not allowing your feelings to handle or take over your reaction, especially when you're talking about an aspect with 3 highly sensitive and emotional planets. It could be a highly sensitive and emotional week, but you want to take yourself out of that situation. Stop overthinking it. See it for what it is. Put some positive thought processes and energy into it. See it in the positive way that you want it, and then watch that manifest out in the physical. It works the same way as expecting the same results out of somebody over and over again in a negative way, and you always get them. If it works that way, it's going to work in the positive. It's up to you, though, to change that thought process. So you guys have a great week with that. Libra, the moon coming into your sign this week is going to be very helpful and not so very helpful, as it is a full quarter moon this week in Libra. Now we're going to start on Tuesday when she moves into grand sextile position with the Sun, Mercury, and Saturn, bringing you a lot of success, especially when it comes to making career advancements and taking old things that were considered failures, turning them around and making them successful. There's a lot of beautiful energy involved in that, and communicating your intentions with the heart is definitely the way to go. It's the difference between people understanding or listening to understand or listening to react to ego-based communication. Ego-based communication is not always taken very well with other people, unfortunately. It has a tendency to put them off. So you want to speak your intentions from the heart and speak your truth so that everybody around you understands. And as we get to Wednesday, you're going to hope that you did this on Tuesday, because Wednesdays the moon moves into cardinal grand cross position with Mars and Uranus and Pluto. It's a little tiny look back into the past last year when we had this almost very same aspect for several months. Very difficult one, when it feels like old traps and old patterns are coming back to haunt you, and it's really making the frustration heighten. You want to mind your thoughts on the situation and take yourself out of it on an emotional level. If you're going to get offended and you're going to let the emotions to take over, you're not going to take care of the situation in the way that you need to take care of the situation. You're not going to be proactive, and you want to get things done. So basically, this aspect is teaching you, take yourself out, don't get offended, don't let any of the craziness that's going on around you get to you. Stay clear-headed. Do what you do best, which is be the peacemaker and the peacekeeper and the person that gets stuff done, and then move on from it, because from that point forward, all you have to do is pat yourself on the back for doing a good job. So you guys have a great week with that. Scorpio, Saturn's trine with the Sun and Mercury this week have a huge impact on helping you shine when it comes to your career and personal goals this week. We're talking big time, so don't be afraid to speak up for yourself, communicate, and make that voice loud in what it is that you're doing, what it is that you want, your intentions, and what it is that you have to offer to the world. It's a lot of beautiful energy that shows you how past mistakes can be used as the foundation for boosting you forward in success. And past mistakes and failures are nothing more than first tries that didn't work out. And what you learned from that was that doesn't work out. So we have to do something a little bit different. Changing how you do things changes the outcome, and eventually, if you keep trying, you are going to get it right. Also, Saturn is still in that square position with Venus and Jupiter this week, and it is going to feel like that loud voice against what you're doing is there and getting louder by the second. However, this external voice of somebody around you is also mimicking an internal voice inside of you. It's your own internal insecurity that says, maybe I can't do this. And it's a very fear-based internal process. This external voice is really showing you this internal voice so that you can tackle it. Because you can't control the other person, but you can control your own inner voice. And how do you do that? By simply saying, I don't want to hear that anymore. What I want to hear from my internal voice, because it's my internal voice, is I've got this and I can go as far as I want. Once you do that and once you start that, and it takes practice every day and every time it comes up, once you start this process and once you do it, those external voices become quieter because they don't have to mirror that internal voice quite so loudly. And what you hear instead is more external voices around you, lifting you up and being there to support you. So you guys, do a good job this week because it's going to be an awesome one for you guys. And have a great week with that. Sagittarius, did you ever notice that too much thinking about a situation can make it actually more confusing, even though you're trying to think about the situation to make it less confusing for yourself? Have you ever noticed that? And especially you Sagittarians who think on absolutely epic levels, that you can wind up overthinking it so much that when you come back to square one, you got nothing. Thinking on this level or trying to justify some way of getting out of doing what it is that you need to do, or rationalizing it in a way that's more comfortable for you, really only makes things more confusing. And because you're so stuck in that thought process, you start to see that confusion reflect all around you in your external life, making everything even more confusing. And the situation that you're probably stuck on in your head, even more difficult to deal with. This week is time to stop that madness altogether. You know what you need to do. You need to get up and get some work done. A decision needs to be made. Whatever it is, you know what you need to do. And rather than spending so much time in your head trying to figure out a brilliant way to get around this situation or do it in a different way or lessen the blow, whatever it is, that does work temporarily for the most part, but eventually it's always going to catch up to you. Rather than doing that, stop thinking about it and do what you know in your innermost knowing you need to do. Bite the bullet, rip that Band-Aid off, do whatever it is you need to do, let it go, and move on with your life. If it keeps coming up over and over and over again in your mind, it's because it needs to be dealt with. So deal with it and be the saggy that gets up and gets their stuff done, not the one that's still stuck trying to figure it out. Nobody wants to be that saggy. And you guys have a great week with that. Capricorn, Pluto's T-squared position with Mars and Uranus this week can really have you frustrated, especially with situations that you can't take your mind off of. And this type of overthinking for you guys will drive you insane because you just can't seem to get away from this situation or stop thinking about it. I don't know how many times I've heard it. Well, I just can't stop thinking about it. Well, how come you can't stop thinking about it? It is your brain. You have control over it. Pull that plug and stop the madness, guys. But it's not just about overthinking things. And when the moon moves into position, cardinal grand cross position on Wednesday, for one day, this thought process is going to be a very heavy emotional thought process, which is definitely going to leave you frustrated, stressed out, and exhausted, emotionally exhausted by the end of it if you keep feeding that fire of those negative thoughts. At the same time, Pluto's aspect with Neptune continues this week, showing you that your own intuition and your own internal knowing always has the answer. your brain is not necessarily going to come up with the right answer. We can rationalize and come up with ideas and maybe come up with a battle plan of how to do something in a way that will be successful. But when we don't know which way to go, our intuition always has all the answers. Go within, listen to your innermost self and your heart and your intuition, and what does your intuition say? Then, without thinking about it, do what your intuition says, because your intuition never steers you in the wrong direction. And you've already had proof of that, so why are you questioning it now? So you guys, get out of your heads for a bit. When you're overthinking it, take a step back and say, nope, I'm not going to give this any more of this negative energy anymore. I only want to give it light, and I only want to see it be successful and not fall apart. And you use that intuition to guide you in the direction that you need to go. You guys are unstoppable because you're Capricorn. So have a great week with that. Aquarius, when it comes to focusing on your home and those that you love, your home is usually filled with the most important people that you love in your life. Honestly, you wouldn't be sharing your space with them if you didn't love them to the level that you did, because Aquarians generally like their own space. But when it comes down to it, as much as you love them, sometimes it's just not easy to share a space with them. You got so many different multi-dimensional things going on with yourself as the water bearer, as Aquarians generally are, and with everybody else's comings and goings and things going on. It can get a little bit disorganized and a lot messy if you're not careful with that. So when it comes to needing help and everybody kind of sort of coming together as a team, you hate to ask for help, but at the same time, nobody likes a dictator either, or anybody telling them what to do. So you got to find a middle ground there. Of course, you should ask for help because you need the help, and you're not Superman or Superwoman. You can't do everything yourself. But at the same time, you can arrange something that's not so pushy, and everybody can do whatever they can do on their time. It helps it to run a little bit more smoothly, and people have a choice rather than feeling like they're being forced into doing something. So this week, rather than fighting against what is and what has been, work smart, not hard, is what it comes down to. And when things are not working out, or you're not seeing people eye to eye, give yourself some space and some leeway, and them too, and allow them to come to you on their time, and allow them to work with your schedule at the same time, because it's important, and everything doesn't have to be quite so cut and dry. So you guys have a great week with that. And finally, Pisces, as Neptune moves into opposition with Venus and the Moon for the first couple of days of the week, it is going to be a little bit of a difficulty, especially as it feels like the love that you put, and the deep, meaningful love that you put into your relationships, is not necessarily reciprocated back to you. And this is very heavy, of course, especially for you Pisces, because you put so much of yourself into other people. You really do wear your hearts on your sleeve at times. However, at the same time, Neptune's continued aspect with Pluto in a positive way is helping you and showing you how much your thoughts really have control over the external situations in your life. If you think that somebody is going to react in a negative way like they always do, your chances of seeing them react in that way are pretty darn good, as a matter of fact, because that's what you're focused on. That's what you want to see. And you may not be saying, this is what I want to see. Your reality is you want to see a change. But if you're going to assume that it's going to happen, it's going to happen. That same concept works with positive manifestation. Turn it around. Don't visualize them doing the same negative thing they always do. Visualize them doing something productive, positive, and something that's going to actually make sense to the situation. It works both ways, and it is kind of like magic, but at the same time, it works. I've seen it work a million times, and if you have the tool, you're already using it in a negative way, you might as well try it out in a positive way. What have you got to lose? You're Pisces. and you're a little bit of all 12 signs in one, which makes you a pretty powerful force if you're willing to step into that power. So you guys, seize that power and have a great week with that. Thanks for listening to the horoscopes this week. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic, and of course check out all of our links, websites, Facebook groups, Facebook pages, everything that we got going on and more. We got some new stuff coming out. We're going to be launching really, really, really soon. So you want to like those pages, be a part of that group, check out that website and see what that awesome thing is that's coming out pretty soon. I'm not saying yet because it's not ready yet, but within the next couple weeks it will be. So you guys have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week.